Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever you're watching this. Welcome to Truth, the reality under the headline. Today's special guest, again, for what is this now? Episode 159 with you.
Probably, yeah.
We got retired Phoenix police officer Christopher Hoyer with us. Going through his book. We're on chapter 11 today, Running Gun, and Chris is gonna. And this is a very important chapter of this book. I know that in law enforcement, a lot of us, even though we're trained for certain aspects of the duties that we are to serve, the individuals we are to protect, the society, the communities, or whatever the case may be that we're sworn in to protect. What we discussed today, and Chris's first incident that we're going to review today, this is a vital aspect. I don't give a fuck if you're going through the academy, if you're considering joining law enforcement, if you're a veteran but yet have not had one of these run-ins. This is going to be vital, and this is why what Chris does is, it's imperative that agencies across this nation, even in the world, this is something that applies. I don't care what country, what community, what civilization you're in, what he's dealt with and what he's opened up to share with us, with you. And, he goes inside different agencies to provide that guidance outside of textbook. This is something you need to pay attention to, because what he experienced or about to cover today is something that, many of us, every brother and sister, they don't want to face this day. But again, when that day comes, and even if you want to play it in your head and rechange the name of the fucking book to If That Day Comes, Training for the Fight, at least you're going to know that as long as you take these precautions, as long as you heed his instruction. And again, as Chris says time and time again, he's not saying that it's the way, but it is the way. But when you really consider, when you add in experience on top of, the guidance from your book, you're going to be able to apply this to you. So, today's episode, it really is vital for so many of you to actually really pay attention to. Listen to the words as he's reading the chapter. I encourage any of you to, make a comment, ask questions if need be. But this is an actual vital chapter. They're all great chapters, Chris. I don't want to, downplay the book as itself as a whole, but reality, that this is a vital chapter that so many brothers and sisters in law enforcement, corrections, everyone really needs to pay attention to, because how is this day going to affect the rest of your career? Is it going to give you any second guesses? This is the vital chapter. It's kind of, actually, Chris, it's kind of fitting that it's 11. So it's like hey, look, it's 1 and 1. So, that's the sequential one is like the first chapter, because this really is an important aspect. I can't begin to pretend. We all handle things differently and things like that, man. But this right here is, something that so many need to pay attention to. A lot of people play their own little game in their head, like, oh, yeah, if need be, I will. But, what happens when you do,
Yeah. Well, you guys that know me, heard me say it 100 times. It is a matter of when. If you venture into this career, be safe for any length of time, which could be like a year, could be 20 years, or whatever else. It's going to catch up with you at some point in time. No questions asked. So, oh boy, now he's going to love that. So, yeah, it's brand spanking new. How far have we gotten into that thing?
I know this doesn't have to, this doesn't have anything to do with Chris's book, but it does, though, really. To all the viewers, those of you that have actually, gotten a copy of this book as well, they go hand in hand, because, it's one of the things, too, that I really believe in fate. I really believe in that, placements in life, regardless if it's when we're infants or if we have to live half of our life before we meet that individual. There's a reason why individuals come together, and neither one of these two, I believe, I may be wrong, but many of you that are on here right now know that Michael Bagby's not wrong often. I don't want to gloat or anything like that, but I'm not wrong very often. But it's truly a blessing that, it happened. The way that it did, and I'm grateful that the neurotic cat Danny, did jump in your lap, because I mean, who knows where we'd be if that never happened. Sometimes, man, people stand on their toes, man. Like one thing that I will never in my life, if a dog or if one of my, I hate calling them pets because they're like people to me. They're like kids, but if my cat, my dog, or somebody has an instinct about somebody, I'm not going to second guess I'm going to second guess you before I second guess my dog or my cat or anybody.
That was one of the first deal sealers, right? So
it's huge though. I mean, it really is. I mean, like, a lot of people can laugh at it and kind of play it off and things, but it's really huge, man. And people need to take their time when they read through this. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can assert to our own lives.
Oh yeah,
I'm
sure.
I'm eidetic and I'm echoic. If I see something, if I hear something, it's memorized, it's there. So I can sit here. I'm not going to say I could go like this and read it, but I'm pretty. All I got to do is just see it, and I can just listen to it at nighttime as I go to sleep. It sounds weird. People think I'm crazy, but it's one of those things. So
speaking of that, he's actually getting pretty close to being done with the audible version of hers as well. So, which is pretty cool. So, so she's pretty excited. And by the way, I'm not going to sleep now. She's over here giggling her ass off after what you just said. So.
I really don't even want to talk about that because it's the I got that Rico Suave handwriting and voice. My feelings are hurt that I didn't even know that the auditions were going on. That British lady that did her audition, I mean, it sounded great, but they don't have nothing on me. Yeah. I just got that. I mean, people have to listen. I got that authoritative yet, oh my God, it's so dreamy kind of voice, and it hurt my feelings that I couldn't read your book to people.
Well, what's even worse than that, if you hold them up together, and her name is on my book, my name is not on her book. What's that all about? I mean,
but hey, it's I was kind of like laughing about that myself, but when you read the book, I mean, Chris, you're from, I believe it's, get this right, man, we're like in chapter 25. But even before that, you were kind of mentioned, but it's from 25 on, you're like a solid reason behind the book. Okay. Now now we want to start comparing. So now her name's on your book, but no time in this book does it describe that, hey, like in the acknowledgments, we talk about hey, this is for law enforcement officers and especially like David Glasser, but at no time is it hey, this book wouldn't be possible without Natalie June Riley. No time. But in this book,
I'm not going to get into another reason.
Well, from chapter 25 on, it is just a gratefulness that, the courses of life cross both paths, man. And I'm grateful for it. I know she's grateful for it. I know you're grateful for it.
Yeah,
and,
we are.
A lot of the viewers and things like that. And that's why I wanted to kind of bring this up because this is like a hand in hand right here. This is like a ride along because one of the things that in the very first conversation that you and I had, Chris, with Chris Gregorio, we right at the end we were talking about hey, we'd like to have another conversation and kind of talk about the family of law enforcement because it's something that's not discussed. It's always law enforcement having to stand on their toes because of these fucking idiots in the media. They don't have a problem broadcasting all the negative shit that may happen. Or some clown that just had a run and all of a sudden it's like I was persecuted, but it's never the good side or the family side or that the human side of wearing the badge and going home, and that's where both of these together kind of puts it in perspective. How you both came together, how handing the manuscript to one individual that was like already handing love notes out to other individuals that are in the career of first responder, law enforcement, whatever the case may be. And then just, kind of reading your story like, oh, hey, and it's, again, it's, I believe in, the cycles of life, but, I believe that individuals are drawn together. It's like, all of my writings, everything I've been speaking about for the past fucking 18 years has been about, it's when like-mindedness exists. The forces of life draw individuals together, and there's no better case than this. You can watch fucking dramas, love stories, all these movies and shit, but the real life that happens, that's the fucking movie that needs to be made.
is the real life of, two individuals like yourself that, lived the career, provided us all of the safety, the guidance, the provisions that you gave to us, and the blood, sweat, and tears that you did, the sacrifices you made, the things you have to deal with now because of the sacrifices you made, putting it in print so other individuals don't have to fucking make those sacrifices. They can be more cautious as they're making that sacrifice. For her, just a simple note, just encouraging a life and the ripple effect of where somebody was about to give up today, essentially that could have fucking just pushed me 10 more years into my career and things like that. So I'm fucking beyond grateful that the both of you exist, and especially together. I mean, how can you find that ever? It's perfect.
So that's a pretty strong force, man. She's a driving force. I'm just kind of here riding along, So, but I told you yesterday, or last week, or whatever, that hers becomes a bestseller before mine. I'm gonna be pissed. So, whatever.
Well, I'll stop broadcasting it then.
No, seriously, man. I'm extremely proud of her because it's a big deal. And
you haven't hit bestseller yet?
Say again?
You haven't hit bestseller yet?
No, I didn't even probably not even close. But truth be told, I mean, we're doing it all organically. It's all word of mouth at this point for the most part. So, which is okay. I don't mind that. So,
well, see, here's the thing that we need to do because, as you keep talking about how you want to have your training agencies, that's one of the things I'm trying to put together so that, individuals, whether it be individual officers, whether it be agencies themselves, can actually have you come in there and provide that training and everything else too. So like, this is the website that, essentially is, being developed where individuals can kind of reach out and do that. Has all the different videos on here. They have the links to the book to where they can actually get the book, have the read along, write along, and things like that. So they can experience what we're experiencing now, and they can read along in their own time rather than having to, wait on our discussions. And maybe then we'd actually have more individuals that could, make the comments, because, the whole point behind all of this, I'm not going to say it aggravates me because I'm going to do this regardless if somebody comments or not. But the whole point on this is for the engagement of the public and, engagement of, because, I share this. I'm in I have over 50 law enforcement groups that I'm in, whether it's be active, retired, even in corrections. And it baffles me that individuals are not more engaged. They comment after the fact or send me a private message, but they won't comment while I have you live. So they can ask you live. I mean, it's the whole reason we're live. So they can have a live conversation with you,
Right. For guys that know me, I want that stuff. I want the feedback, even if it's negative. It's like, hey, you're full of shit. I don't believe that. Okay, I love it. Please tell me why, and then we can discuss it. And again, you already mentioned it. It's not Chris Hoyer's way. It's not the way. It's a way. It's just a starting point for you. You may go left or right or whatever else and say, hey, I'm never going to do it the way you said because I don't believe in that. Okay, I don't have a problem with that as long as we're discussing it and we're here to discuss it because you're still alive or whatever it is that you did. I'm all right with that. So,
Well, what goes with that, though, and again, I'm telling you, like, you're a rare guy, man. You have to wake up eating. I mean, Natalie has to cook you humble pie every morning for breakfast or something, man. You're a humble guy. Because, because the reality is, like, so I'm a philosopher, okay? I mean, there's 98% of what I speak is truth, but I have to say that it's my suggestion that this is what's going to increase your life, your business, your family, whatever the case may be. But it's do you know why I'm able to make the post? Do you know why I've been able to write the poems, write the books, encourage people, have the nonprofits? It's because of fucking experience. Yes, I went to college. I have my fucking associates in criminal justice. I have my bachelor's in behavior analysis. I have my associates in fucking business management. I have my license. I'm a licensed CPA. I'm a licensed medical massage therapist. I have my barber license. I have my cosmetology license. I have so much. I'm ASC certified to work on cars. But I've read books. I went to school. But do you know what drives me forward and why I can look my clients in the face, regardless of the medical field, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's, just, being a victim advocate? I can look them in the face and provide them insight, provide them knowledge, provide them guidance, and say with certainty of what is going to be the best case scenario
for them to live their life moving fucking forward is because of experience. It isn't because of the fucking 5 fucking years, 10 years I went to fucking college. It isn't because this, that, or the other. It's because I lived the fucking life, period. So you had the book knowledge going in, and then you went in and went strong, and you had that real experience. And I've read this book fucking 5 times over, plus I'm reading it again as we have these different discussions and things like that. And there's nothing in here that really cannot be set in stone to say, hey, look, this is the way. You know, if you go against this, you deserve what you get. I mean, and essentially that's what you should be saying, not, well, you know, this is just a way, not the way. You know, essentially what you need to be saying, like realistically, and I'm saying this being the devil's advocate. And even being the devil's advocate, I can look at this and say that it needs to be said that, you know, if you don't follow it like this, you deserve what you get. Yeah. You know, because, you know, again, I say this almost every time we speak, during the course of writing this, however you wrote it, however, you know, Natalie felt, you know, necessary to adjust it, the fallibilities that you confess through the course of this book, and especially in today's reading, you know, it's the real emotion that's in there. You know, as I'm reading a book, going through the academy, whether I'm going through college, whatever they're fucking telling me, it's why you have internships. It's why certain degrees require you to go spend so many hours in that career. I don't think that, and law enforcement may be one of the careers that there's not as many hours that should be required prior to, you know, becoming, you know, you gaining your badge, your degree. I don't think there's enough hours to where they are exposed to, you know, as what you offer with the actual shock value. There's not enough of it, you know, and that's why we're having such a dramatic, you know, why we have to smash the stigma today. I mean, because things are, and especially with how much hatred and just negativity and false information is being, you know, displayed about law enforcement.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's why this needs to be done, man. You gotta.
Well, I mean,
get you out there, man.
It's an honor just to have it in my own possession. You know, when we first got it, I couldn't believe it. You know, now that it's turned into something, it's like, wow. I mean, okay, it still feels really strange to me. I had a kid the other day. I wrote some stuff and signed a copy for him, and I'm like, this is not me, man. I'm out there just chasing bad guys. That's what I do now. I'm here signing books. It's just, it doesn't really compute. But when you get somebody of a, you know, level of your experience that says, hey, man, this is worth looking into, sometimes I got to remind myself that, man, there's a lot of shit that I did go through. If I didn't go through that stuff, this thing would never have existed. You know, and since I did, I kind of feel like I have this huge obligation to push it forward and just put the word out there. You know, it's like, hey, you know, take my experiences on board and run with it, or freaking whatever, you know, just take it and just say, hey, you need to be aware of what could happen. It may not happen. You could go your entire career and never pull your gun, or you could be like me and be freaking in all kinds of crazy shit every day. You know, I mean, who knows? But I'd rather you be prepared for it and own it here in this kind of an environment, like I like to say, in a controlled environment, versus how much shit that I learned out there on the street. Probably because it was a very large part of, you know, a fire hose of information. You can't absorb it all. You know, you take the bits and pieces away that you can take away from, and then later on, when the dust settles, you're like, holy shit, man! And then you start looking at all the stuff that you did right or you did wrong. It's smart. So you take something away from each experience, and I didn't do that for a long time because I was just like, yeah, go. And it wasn't until later I realized how many times I came so close to death that I was like, wow, maybe I need to slow down and start figuring this shit out properly so I can make it through my entire 20 years, which somehow I did. I mean, I was telling some guys today about that. You know, it's like, you know, I lost virtually 2 years of my life after Dave. And it wasn't until after I physically retired that I knew that Dave was killed was when I checked out. And We'll get to the story. I'm not sure if I can put it in this one. I got the new one up too. But one of my last, probably the last critical incident I got involved with, guy pointing his gun into a car with two people holding him hostage. And long story short, by the time I holstered my weapon, my finger was slacked off all the way into the trigger, and putting the gun away in my holster with my finger slacked all the way out. And I knew, I'm like, dude, I can't continue on. You know, if I continue on, you know, I mean, I came so close to a negligent discharge. It's stupid. Why that gun didn't go off, I don't know. But I was so far removed from what I needed to do. I was done, you know. Very fortunately for me, I learned that at the end of my career that I was done. Unfortunately, it's just so many guys that are like, man, I can't go on. You got 5 years on. It's like, man, you're never going to survive it, you know. If you don't start planning for these kinds of things now, and you let that stress get to you the way I did, and you don't process through it, it's gonna eat you alive, you know. So
you see, it's important too, you know, and that's like one of the things too that we're, you know, kind of goes into when they were telling when it was like a year after David. I don't want to get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was almost like a year after, you know, Dave's killing, that, you know, your superiors were like, you know, it's been a year, get over it. And I'm pretty certain you were hit with like another incident that you just kind of was just like, you know, hey, but that's the shit that baffles my mind. It's like, you know, individuals that are just able to say, oh, hey, it is what it is, get over it. But it's that they don't, it's, I'll never understand. I won't, you know, I mean,
I mean, you don't want to get over it, for one, because you don't want to let that memory die on some level. The other part is your brain won't let you get over it because, you know, in my particular situation, you know, after that year was over with, and I thought I was actually doing pretty good. I was processing through some pretty good stuff, and then some other major critical incident happened. You know, it's like, oh, that set me back another month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever it is, you know. And so now I've got that on top of everything else. So I haven't processed through Dave fully yet, and now I've got this new thing that just happened that pushes me back. And then, you know, I mean, we're just talking about professional on the work side. I'm not even talking about the home life stuff that I was dealing with as well, you know. And, you know, it was just one of those things where I'm a ticking time bomb. I'm just waiting to explode. And my explosion was actually more of an implosion because I basically shut down. I didn't freaking lose my shit and go off on every bug except one time with my boss, but that's another story. But he had it coming. So anyways, but instead of, you know, losing it and then turning to the really bad stuff, the alcoholism and all this other shit, or, you know, even worse shit, God forbid, the attempted suicide, to shut down and closed off everybody, you know, including myself. And I denied myself any kind of wellness or moving forward that I know I desperately needed. But I was like, no, I'm good. Doing that same shit we do, you know, and telling everybody, and they all knew I was full of shit. And they're like, dude, no, you're not okay. No, I'm fine. You know, and then it was finally, I mean, you guys probably heard this 100 times. I finally figured it out and then started moving forward. And I kind of had a little revelation the other day. I was thinking about this. And it's probably completely far-fetched, but the way I visualized it was I'm looking at a ladder, and I'm looking up through this, you know, through this hole. You know, I'm looking way up, and I can see that all I got to do is get to that ladder. I just couldn't get to the ladder because I know how to get out of it. I just didn't have the ability to climb the ladder. You know what I mean? It sounds kind of crazy to put it that way, but that's what I visualized. And everybody's going to have a little bit of different outtake or outlook on what that's going to be for them. But you gotta figure that out. If you want to be better, you'll be better. If you want to stay in a state of sadness and depression, that's where you're going to probably be. You know, I just didn't want to be at that point anymore in my life. You know, so. But.
Well, you know, and again, like, you know, law enforcement in general. I mean, first responders in general are more likely to sustain a traumatic event than civilization, the civilized sector. This civilian sector will experience in their lifetime. You know, so I mean, you could take one day and you can experience in one day more traumatic events than us in the civilian sector will experience in their fucking lifetime. It's hard for people to fathom that.
and it's hard for people to actually come to grips with that. They're so quick to pass judgment and say, hey, this they could have done this different, they could have done this different. But when the realization sets in that, well, we have a career, firefighters, EMTs, law enforcement, corrections, military, there are more traumatic events. I mean, think about that for a minute. I mean, that in itself can cause some fucking, mental compression, that in one day you can experience more traumatic events than someone will experience in their lifetime.
Well,
That's insane. And then there's five.
Yeah, I was just saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it's the average person has somewhere between like 5 and 10 major traumatic experiences throughout their life. The average officer has like 800 or some crazy shit like that. I don't know what the exact number, but there's something like that. You figure 800 critical incidents, critical events, or whatever happens to be, and it doesn't have to be some major thing like a gunfight. It could just be, I was talking to somebody the other day and I had to go give a death notification. That's a hard thing to do, man. You knock on the door and they're wondering why you're there. Next thing you know, they're falling down crying, and it's like, oh my God, and now clearly you've shared that bad news with them, and now you're part of it, of course. And how do you handle that? Do you console them? Do you walk away? Do you freaking, just stand there all stoic or whatever else? I mean, and then you're clearly not going to forget about that when you get back in your car and drive. It's going to be on your mind, And if you're like a regular, like most of us are for the most part, you can start thinking about your own family and then your own existence and your mortality and all this kind of thing. That's just like just ways and ways, and you multiply that times 20 years. It's like, no wonder.
Well, seriously, I mean, because a lot of individuals, you take those statistics, and a lot of people are like, oh yeah, right, but when you really look at situations that can occur, an incident that can occur on a daily basis, I could go from handling a domestic dispute to where I find a missing child that's laying dead in the dumpster, going next to a drowning victim, going next to a murder victim, going next to, I mean, it's endless of what can actually happen. And then when you take into consideration the 5 stages of grief, kind of going back to the whole David incident, a lot of times that denial period, I mean, the denial stage of grief can last for fucking years because we just don't want to come to terms with that really happened. And then once we do come to terms with that happened, now we're fucking angry. Fuck, and again, that's the self-blame and everything else comes into. And then we kind of do the bargaining aspect with everything, where it's like, well, hey, look, I can kind of, I understand that it happened and things like this, and this is what it is. But, then like the realization that somebody's gone, it hits them with the depression, and then you go into with the acceptance part. But even in the acceptance part, the grief stages aren't over with the acceptance. Hey, I can accept it. Now we just have to, acceptance is just that, we understand that it's done. We found our little means of doing this, but every time that we pay tribute and things like that, as you and Natalie have gone out and done, it's every time we pay tribute now, that recollection still plays. It's just, so many law enforcement officers go out and they pass, you can just pass something. It's no different than the trigger of, a drug addict, to where something just, seeing an incident, hearing a loud bang, it's, military individuals. That's why, like, that's where shell shock came from. Hearing loud bangs, it just throws you right back to where you were. Yeah, it's never going to end, but there are ways that, I'm not going to say there are. I mean, because for some individuals, no matter how, I don't want to get into all that, but it's just for someone to look at you with a straight face and say, hey, you should be over this. They shouldn't have teeth. Yeah. Seriously, I mean, they need dentures. I'm being serious, man. Like, if somebody told me some of this shit, I'm a retard, flat out. I'm just so fast acting because I'm reality thought. It's like I'll consider opinions, but it's like have you even considered the facts? It's like, you want me to do my job like this, but I mean, do you know what I just fucking went through?
Well,
it's like my superior would eat the fucking badge, like.
Well, just for the record, I got to switch gears a little bit because we're talking about all this bad trauma and everything else and all these bad things you're going to see. But yeah, it's a huge part of it. That is very true. However, I'm not going to lie, man. I had a fucking ball chasing bad guys. I did. And it was the greatest thing I ever got myself involved with. I had the time of my life. It's like, I mean, I can remember when I first got on, I'm typing messages to my squad mates going, I can't believe they're paying me for this, man. This is the greatest thing ever. And I lost that for a short period of time. But the idea that, I was able to do the things that I was getting paid to do was unbelievable. I'm like, I'm actually, I'm up on the rifle range teaching guys how to shoot rifles and making like $40 an hour doing this. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, who gets to do that? I mean, who gets to be me, right? So on the good side of things, I want people to recognize that as well, that, man, there's a whole lot of really good stuff out there still, as long as you remember that kind of shit. Because I forgot it for a while. That's to be absolutely expected. But the idea that, shit, man, you're practically a celebrity, even if you don't want the attention. You have to wear all this cool shit all the time. Yeah, you got to deal with the public and writing reports and all that kind of stuff. You pretty much got freedom to do whatever you want. You got all this power, which, if you're smart, you can exploit that by any means. But you can do things that a lot of people can't do.
Yeah, but it's minute on that side. But what kills me is, have you ever seen a prison yard?
Oh yeah, many times.
Okay, so here's my and like, this is one of the things that fucking blows my mind when you see different agencies that take away the physical requirements, or you see officers that don't fucking go train themselves. Right. If you go to a prison, and that should be like Scared Straight's used for fucking kids. But you and Chris Gregorio and I, in our first broadcast, I made a joke about the Scared Straight for law enforcement, to where it really needs to happen, though. Because if you go to a fucking prison yard and you see these, I don't want to say animals, because not everyone incarcerated is an animal, but in the same sense, you go to a prison yard and you see these individuals that just have that mentality, they're building themselves stronger, physically, but you never know what's going on in their mind. They can have that resentment. They could be plotting their next shit to get out. Because lifestyles, a lot of times, unless there's work being done on that mental state, that mental state's not being changed. So that's why recidivism across the nation, across the world, is so high, because the lack of the retraining of the mind. So all you do is you put an animal in a cage and you just let them get stronger and stronger physically. It's insane. Yeah. So for on my side, if I'm supposed to be stopping and protecting others from this fucking animal, if I myself am not training, I deserve what I have fucking coming. Period. Yeah, and I hate saying that, but it's insane. Your mentality. I'm not going to lose this. You really can't have that mentality unless you know that you've trained yourself to have that fucking mentality. It's like, excuse my language.
I know what's going to happen if I lose. I already know, and I can't. I can't put myself in, or my family or anybody else in that position. My friends or my squad mates, because I don't want those guys having to, pull me out of a hot scene. It's like, dude, I can't live with that. I just can't do it. So, but anyway, so what do you think? You want to start doing some reading or what? Because obviously we can chat all night long and shit. So,
we still are, because this is a vital chapter that we're diving into right now. So,
all right, I haven't reviewed it, so I don't even remember. But we'll have to get into it as we go. So.
Chapter 11, Run and Gun. In the middle of July 2000, are you listening, Natalie? Yeah. A good buddy of mine joined me as my first civilian ride-along passenger. He rode with me 4 times in my 20-year career. I'm telling you, Rico Suave over here, I didn't even get considered to read your book. Oh, my feelings are hurt, Natalie.
Don't worry. Me too. Me too.
Might be a good review. That's
yeah. Right now, she's reading her own book. She's not reading my book. She's reading her own book. It's like, dude, you just wrote it. You know it. You got to know what's in there. Come on. Whatever.
Hey, have you ever typed a message, read over it, and was like, okay, everything looks good, hit send, and then go back and reread that message like, oh shit, that's not what I meant to send. Yeah. Even though you read it, you typed it, you reread it. It was like, oh yeah, hey, everything's good. You send it, and it's like, oh my god, hold on, this is all wrong. The same thing with books. It's like, you write it, you edit it, you re-edit it. Oh, it's good for print. All of a sudden you start reading it, it's like, how does it even make it to print?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, no shit. That's part of the problem with what we're doing, is because I read the stuff out loud and I'm like, man, I completely forgot about this portion of that chapter, or, I could have added this, or I never I rarely ever, or try to at least not ever use the words I should have, because for me that's just a bad thing. I'm always just gonna I'm just gonna do it, whatever it is. So I try to never use those words. However, there's several times I'm like, man, I missed this. I should have put that in there, but it's still, I mean, honestly, there's lots of reasons why I didn't do that. But the main reason why I didn't into the entire thought process of what I was going through, I did, this thing would be 10 than it is, And I figured, well, I'll just keep it as basic as
we already uploaded.
Yeah, it's never going to get finished if I keep adding and adding and adding and adding. I figured, instead of doing that, I'll just write another one. That's pretty much
how long do we have to wait for reinvention?
That's going to be on her. She's the one that's doing the editing, and clearly she's busier than shit. So, mine that's done. It's completely done as far as I'm concerned. She just has to do the hard work now. So,
man, how's she gonna write a bestseller and put you on the back burner, bro?
I agree. I don't know. There's slap 3 that I won't be sleeping tonight. I'll probably be on the couch, and guarding myself somehow. So whatever that looks like. So, but all right. Anyway, let's get rolling here. What do you think?
Yes, sir. Hey, I'm gonna let my dog out real quick. Hold on.
All right, I'm gonna take it.
Take me 1 second, real quick. Just hold on. Yes, sir.
All right, rock and roll. I was just looking at that and realized how long this chapter was. So you got to remember, man, didn't stop me because I never
hey,
shut up.
Well, you got to figure that, and that's why I was. This is an important chapter, so as long as it is, there's going to be some conversation throughout. So tell Natalie that she better have her blanket and pillow, sitting there on the couch instead of we're going to be a while.
Yeah, she's already retired in the bedroom, so I may not see her for the rest of the night. So. All right, here we go. All right, chapter 11, Run and Gun. In the middle of July 2000, a good buddy of mine joined me as my first civilian ride-along passenger. He rode with me for a 20-year career. It was his dream to join the police force, and I was only happy to make him come along for a ride. Sweet, let's go have some fun. Did I say fun? Actually, his first ride with me was a little more fun than either of us had bargained for. It was 0600 on a Saturday morning. We hit the street and started our day of crime fighting. Boring. We ended up making a silly arrest, and so off to the jail we went. Bad timing, as it turned out, because a squad mate of mine had gotten into a gnarly fight with a naked guy who was high on PCP. It would have been a great opportunity to let my buddy witness the potential of what he might encounter on the job. Naked, sweaty, high on drugs, out of control. Yeah, baby. I could have played the FTO and made him search the naked dude, but it was not to be. I guess it would have been a moot point since he was in his birthday suit, the bad guy, not my buddy. So yeah, I had to point that out. So the officer involved was quite proud of herself, having helped put the beat down on a naked guy. Being that she was so-called white cloud, meaning no trouble ever found her. It would have been a chance for me to see her in action. I, being the black cloud, the one that was always finding trouble, said to her, "Don't worry, the big one is coming later." That remark almost cost me a session in timeout.
Shit, man.
Yeah, I sent her that message on the MDT. So sure shit. Be careful what you wish for in this profession. The big one, started in another precinct. There was a report of a stolen vehicle that gave chase. It was a situation that simply got too dangerous, so the pursuing officer backed off. We never got the relay info on this happening. It wouldn't have mattered. It was just about 11:45 hours. My passenger and I had a junk food fiesta on board from the local convenience store. Neither of us was particularly interested in sitting down and eating a meal. God forbid we might miss something, right? Emergency traffic, hit and run. Damn it. I hate accidents. Silly motors don't work weekends, and I knew I'd get stuck cleaning up the mess. I never really learned how to do accidents, by the way. But, a half mile away. So at least I could do a switch over and listen. Heading that direction when the dispatcher cleared a second time, saying that the subject was last seen running with a gun in hand. Now that I could handle. Ease it up there, kid. Let's go, man, my buddy hollered. It was lights and sirens, and we were on scene in 60 seconds. Everyone okay? Yes, officer, he took off that way. He's got a gun. A dozen excited citizens pointed in the direction of an industrial area. I was thinking to myself, calm down, my peeps. The wannabe Caped Crusader is here to save the day. To this day, I did not know how the bad guy got out of that car. Two-door sedan, American-made something or other that he rammed underneath the trailer of a semi. Somehow this guy was able to emerge from the wreckage and bolt on foot. How did he not lop his head right off? Oh, yeah, damn that Murphy. Knowing that I was much better at tracking than I was at accident reconstruction, and our subject was running loose in the neighborhood with a gun, the pursuit was a priority, and so off we went. We pulled into a nearby shopping center. I believe this would be his most likely path of travel, and it was a good guess. He had run into one of the stores, and when he saw me coming for him, he ran out the back. I hadn't seen him yet, but the store owner did. He ran out the back, he screamed as we exited the patrol car. He ran out the back. Okay, I'm on it. We stormed through the front door of the store, my civilian passenger in tow. He was unarmed, of course, and had no protective vest. Not to worry, he signed the liability waiver. It was a straight shot out the back door, and there he was, someone matching the description of our bad guy, standing like a statue waiting for me, facing away. Dude, you're making this way too easy. I was 15 feet outside the back door. I was already making my Urlacher move to dump this guy. We're in a back alley, brick structures encompassing an industrial area with one driveway separating two buildings. Sound carried, and I heard all about it later. That's when I heard a loud shriek of panic. He's in my car. He's in my car. I moved away from the first guy fitting the description and headed toward the parked car, and sure enough, there's our bad guy sitting in the driver's seat, as I would soon discover. It was bright light. I was in full uniform, and he was looking direct. The car door was closed, and the window cracked about an inch. He had a throwing knife in his left hand. In my estimation, it had to be at least 3 feet long. Okay, so it's really about 8 inches long, but still. This guy had done this before. He knew if he could crack the column of this car, he could manipulate the ignition, and he was getting close. With that in mind, let's quickly recap. The last time radio had heard from me, I was rolling on scene. My civilian passenger was 50 yards away working traffic control, safest place for him. My car was parked on the opposite side of the building. I was facing a suspect armed with a knife and more than likely a gun too. This was definitely not like shooting a dog. There was no time to switch, or no time to think. Switch to autopilot. What are my options? I could open the door. Yeah, but he's armed. Nix that idea. I could get back in my car, block him in. Yeah, but do I have time for that? No. I could yell and scream and scare him into giving up. Not going to happen. Got any more bright ideas? I could walk up to the window, make my presence known. No doubt he knows I'm here. Yes, that's it. As I approached the side window, I gave a couple but stern commands. Car, nothing. Damn it. He was still fiddling with the column. So the get out of the car thing did not work. I've seen this tactic used before. Officer shouting the same verbal command 62 times and no go. That said, the suspect in question was still in the car attempting a getaway, unmoved by my authority. You can believe that. I know, right? Well, I gave him 3 chances. He was getting closer to starting the car. The use of force, kicked the window. Business in mind and not wanting to shoot my toe off, I kicked the window with my support side foot. Fail. Retreat and go back for round 2. Fail. Damn it. Once more, and this time make it count. Switching to my primary foot, I leaned back into the car parked behind me for leverage. Bam. The window shattered, causing the diversion I was hoping for. Yeah, right. I had no clue what my plan was, but it worked nonetheless. Glass flew into the bad guy's face. Tossing the knife, he reached onto the bench seat and grabbed a gun, a weapon I had not seen up until that point. Wait, now. The suspect raised the gun. I'm serious. That's not funny. Put it down. I really mean it this time. There was barely 0.2 of a second to react. It's go time. 2 rounds were fired from my service weapon. 1 shot pierced the car door, and 1 shot went into his arm straight to his heart. He was done. Of course, I did not know this at the time. Fortunately for me, he was not able to shoot back. That's not to say that his weapon wasn't fully loaded. His gun, however, was a joke. He would have been better off throwing it at me. Officer involved shooting, I screamed into the airwave. I exhaled and then waited. As it happened only twice in my career, I had been terrified. This was one of those times. It wasn't the shooting so much as it was my first order of business when the cavalry arrived moments later. Lucky for me, the aircraft overhead calling my position. I kind of forgot to do that. Oops. First officer to this day is still one of my best buds. Another officer on scene, a sergeant in training. Put your muzzle on his back, he said. If he moves an inch, shoot him again. Okay, yes, sir. The sergeant in training was giving me direction and running the scene quite efficiently. As for me, I was both in autopilot and panic mode. I probably couldn't have tied my own shoes if I had to. The sergeant in training got on his knees, put his face next to the bad guy, and felt around the floorboard for more weapons, which he found. I later requested this officer get a medal. He didn't get the medal, but he did get the office of sheriff of a major metropolitan area years later. Good job, sheepdog. Following the shooting, there was a long interview with the investigators. I was still kind of panicked in general, so I had to ask, hey, boss, this is my first shooting. What do you think? Is it clean or what? I was, of course, referring to the outcome based on my decision to fire. The response I got from him was something like, yeah, looks good, I guess. For real? That is your answer? What I didn't realize at the time was that he was speaking subliminally, using simple, safe words to keep me cool, to set me at ease. Sneaky. This was my first real experience I had joining the forces between God and the police department. 4 days later, after having been forced to kill, I learned I had a baby on the way, the second of my tribe, another angel, another worthy fight. On a side and somewhat personal note, I'd like to give a shout out to another close friend of mine, a now retired police officer who was on scene that day. When he came through the door to rescue me, I felt as safe as I could, all things considered. This would end up being just a trigger I would need for my next event. Thanks, my friend. As for the bad guy, well, he was DRT, dead right there. So,
Hey,
pretty much
that
one. So,
yeah, well, I mean, I kind of want to stop right there because there's so many different critical moments that kind of happened, throughout here. Was that when you were talking about like the last time that they heard from you about where you were incident, and a lot of individuals don't understand that in the moment.
nice.
As yeah, again, going back to protocol. Yeah, we may be trained to do this, do that. Make sure you call in. Make sure you do this. Make sure that if you turn a corner, I'm on 5th and 8th. It sounds good as you're going through on paper, but in that moment, to where everything is then and now, realistically, Officer Hoyer, could you have dispatch or engaged your traffic communication and called in a dispatch saying that, hey, I'm in the back alley now with this armed sub. It's the reality is so far gone at that point, to where it's the in the moment, especially facing an armed subject, and especially when you think, oh, he's only got a knife, I'll just kick this window in. Everything's good. Oh shit, he has a gun. There's so many things that, and that's why this is so vital, and especially in training, because again, we can sit there and read a book, we can go out there and train, but it's still a controlled environment. There's so many factors that aren't
put into that. When, we run through our courses, the people that are staged in there behind the doors aren't fucking high. They're not erratic. They're not like going through a situation. It's a controlled environment, regardless of it being set up like, oh, hey, you should have cleared your corner. You should have done this. You should have. It's still a controlled environment. You don't have an erratic individual in there. They're not really armed. They're not really firing back at you. That's why I love hosting my paintball wars.
Yeah.
To where you really get to fire on someone. You really get to impact them to where they're like, fuck, I'd be dead right now.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be done. It really does. Because it's just like, instances like this, because I'm sure that so many questions came at you. Well, Officer Hoyer, why did you not call in? Why did you not, let us know if there's current location? Why? There's so many why you did nots rather than, oh shit, if I put myself in that situation, you're probably at the top of your class, Officer Hoyer. You don't hear that. It's according to this book, according to protocol, you skip step 2 and 3 right here. It's insane. It really is. And
one of the biggest issues that you're going to be facing is that exact same call comes out, and even if somebody has the exact same scenario, if you will, going through the steps, they're going to perceive it differently than I did, or you. So the outcome is probably going to be somewhat different, if not completely different. And I know I've said this 1,000 times since we started talking, that I will say the number one thing that saved my life on this particular call was playing that what if game. Because when I got to that point where I'm like, well, shit, what do I do now? I'm not going to stop this guy's foot in a car. It's going to happen. So I got to figure out a way. And I'd like to think that, my plan was predetermined, but it was more like on almost borderline panic mode, like, oh shit, I got to do something now because this guy's going to get away and I can't let that happen, kind of a thing, But because I had already played the what if game all the way up to that point, I already had thought about everything else. There was really nothing else to do about it. It's like, well, I've already gone through all these other scenarios. Now I'm starting from here, move forward to the next one, which made it really easy. Well, it wasn't easy. Don't get me wrong. It was nothing easy about it, except it didn't take much forward thinking at that point in time. And I truly, truly, truly believe that was the difference that it made. That it's like, had I not thought these things through prior to, I wouldn't have been able to being able to think on my feet, especially when I'm by myself. Nobody there to help me. I mean, I was completely alone. My buddies, he wasn't even a cop. He was way down the way doing traffic control, for Christ's sake, And luckily I had the aircraft overhead calling up my position, and I had that tape. I had the tape for years. I loaned it to somebody, never got it back. But if you listen to the helicopter pilot or the observer talking on the radio, he's getting freaking assed up. I don't usually get assed up, And so he was taking care, from whatever, 8 up in the air or some shit like that. I was like, thank God he was there, because I was so focused right here. There was nothing else. I mean, there was nothing else. So,
well, one of the things too, like you need playing it out, and again, until you're put into that situation, you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you kill someone with a knife? Okay.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so under protocol, when is a law enforcement officer allowed to use deadly force under policy, protocol, and things like that?
Right.
It's when anyone is in imminent danger. Okay. So, I mean, I don't care if someone has a bat. I don't care if someone has a knife or whatever the case was. Under protocol, under the definition of imminent danger, if someone has a knife, has a gun, I don't care what it is. If it can cause death upon me, anyone else, that's imminent danger. Okay, so what you did is beyond what a lot, I'm not going to say a lot, but and especially like the criticism that is like hitting law enforcement today. It's like, oh my God, the guy only had this. He didn't even have a gun. Why did you open fire? What do you mean he didn't have a gun? The motherfucker can kill me with a, that's where like the blindness, the ignorance, the ignorant blindness is actually, implanted in the minds of the civilian sector. It's like, he only had a lead pipe. Did you not play the game Clue growing up? I mean, it was invented in the 60s or I think even like the 40s. It's like you can kill people with a rope, let alone a lead pipe, but realistically, a lot of times because of, instances, because of that fear of everybody's going to process that differently, to where you can put somebody in the same situation. You can put 10 individuals in the same situation. You're going to have how many different outcomes?
Yeah. 20.
Exactly. A lot of people would say, oh, well, 10 or 5, but that's what it is 20. Because that same individual that you put them in any other situation, they would respond a certain way. But now because of this one other factor was thrown in there, because they're the only person on the scene, there's so many different factors that get thrown in there where you literally have 20 different outcomes that could happen.
And there's a lot of things that other people are going to see that I'm not going to see. Let's not forget, I had 2 years on the street when this thing happened. I was brand freaking new, man. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm even surprised I was even solo at this point because whatever. But I guarantee if that same exact scenario, well, not now because I'm completely rusty now, of course, but 5 or 6 years ago, that exact same scenario happened, I'd probably see at least probably 50% more than I saw that particular day. You know what I mean? Just because my ability to kind of slow things down, see more, take better control, have a better plan, all these kinds of things. It worked out the way they're supposed to. I think that was mostly just sheer eye for first place for luck and determination on my side, where I'm like, yeah, I can't let this guy get away. I just got lucky and made the right decision. And I got lucky that I was able to finally kick the window of the car with my, at the time, barely 140-pound little tiny body, so not like it is now, but whatever. We ain't talking about that. So,
but I mean, again, the potential realities that, even this, I'm not even going to just say that civilians, but sometimes the superiors don't even play in their head. Well, let's just pretend that, until backup got here or until I was able to call in my, location or whatever the case may be, let's just pretend that I allowed that to happen. Even though you didn't know until you kicked the window in that, said subject was also armed not only with that knife, but also with a gun. What would happen if you went ahead and just, fell back, let him, get that column apart, get everything going to where you get the car going and, take off? How many other individuals, what's to say that he wouldn't stop at the next traffic thing since you knew that he was in that said vehicle, that he didn't try to get another one and do, another carjacking, and that they wouldn't get out. He shot them. There's so many different scenarios that, hey, if I don't end this right now, so many other innocents could be lost. And that's what a lot of people don't play in their mind, and that's what a lot of us don't play in our mind, where I need to end this now because this could happen if I don't.
Right.
So
truth be told, I didn't know all the stuff that he had done before. But based on what I had already seen, I'm like, this guy must be pretty freaking desperate to get away. Because, if you look at that car, I swear to God, it was crushed. Yeah, I swear to God, I have no idea how I got out of that car. I really but I kept thinking to myself, man, if he's that determined to get out of this car that badly, and now he's on himself to try to steal another car that quickly, and I'm standing over him, again, full uniform, and there's no way he doesn't see me. He's looking right at me, right out the freaking window of the car. Full authority with the freaking gun pointed at your face, and you don't care. You're like, whatever, dude. Cracking the column. Dude, I was like, holy shit, this is serious. This is no joke anymore. This is not the academy. I'm not in a training scenario. This is something that, I have to control now somehow, whatever it is. And, part of it, in a almost half joking manner, if you will, if this guy gets away, how am I going to answer for that? Oh, you let the guy get away, huh? Good job, Mass. Oh, well, shit. Sorry, but you're exactly right. I don't know what this guy's capability is. If he's willing to follow my commands and do all this other shit that I didn't know about. He was in a stolen car, ran from the officers. He had 3 prior hit and runs before he finally dumped his car into that semi. The gun he had was stolen. And what I found out days later, this happened on a Saturday. This guy was due to be in court on Monday because a year before I shot him, he pulled a sawed-off shotgun on my FTA, and he had 3 felony for his arrest for that. It's like, holy shit! So I got good because there was some good ribbing, which was kind of the time because a lot of my buddies were supposed to be in court. Dude, you cost me 3 hours of overtime. I'm like, man, holy shit, because they're all doing court that following Monday. Clearly, the guy wasn't going to show up.
Before I shot him.
But either way, it's like, holy shit, man. So, I mean, even if I had known all that prior to, that wouldn't have changed the outcome. So I still would have done the same exact thing I did, more than likely. Then now it'd probably be a little bit different knowing my experience. But, you know, you just never know how you're going to kinds of situations.
Yeah, but the whole thing though too is it's again going back to scenarios, going back to comments. You know, it's people don't. I'm not going to say because if you apply it to all, you know, why do subjects run? You know, you could say that they have warrants, that they something. It could be that they've never been arrested before and they're in fear, but in the same, it's endless of what can be put into your mind when a subject just takes off running.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like are they armed? You know, what did they just do? I mean, you know, oh my God, is this somebody that's, you know, wanted by, you know, on the FBI watch? I mean, there's so many different things that, I mean, it can sound stupid, but in the same sense, there's so many. Why are you running? You know, it's.
Well, that's
and you don't know until you catch them. Like, what the fuck are you?
Right.
You know, what's wrong with you?
The timeless struggle that we face with law enforcement is like, well, we don't know why he's running. Yeah, we don't know why he's running. It's an argument on both sides. You know, we'll let the guy get away. We don't know what he's capable of, but we don't know why he's running. Well, we need to find out. But we don't know. You know, again, we can just get a vicious circle. It keeps going around and around. I got to give my old agency credit for how they handled that way because they figured out that, all right, well, we're not going to chase guys anymore. However, what we can do is we'll get a helicopter overhead. We'll follow the guy till he goes to ground, and then we'll chase his ass. You know, let's just save some face for the public and for our own people, and we'll establish our felony flight on the guy with the marked car. When the guy doesn't stop, we'll just freaking send our undercovers in there to follow the guy until he goes to ground. They spent millions of dollars on a plane that we could freaking lock him in place, and that thing everywhere he goes, that's going to be locked on. It's a beautiful thing. So that's how we would do things, you know. And you know, for the Meteor A-type personalities that we are, it's very there's nothing harder than, you know, going, okay, I'm in pursuit, and then you got to pull off and drive away from you. You're like, well, this is why I got into this, to fucking chase bad guys, and then you realize the danger factor that involves. And then when somebody else, like in my case, because so many times I was that guy following undercover or plain clothes or what have you, when the guy finally goes to ground, we're the first ones there to jump the dude, you know. And unfortunately for the patrol guys, which I did for years too, don't get me wrong, poor patrol guys show up after the fact, and then their job, now we got to transport this guy, you know. So, let's take the good with the bad, but you know, it's a, you know, it's a very much a work smarter kind of environment nowadays, you know. And guys, we know guys are not going to stop running. You know, we know that they don't care if they're going 85 miles an hour and blow through an intersection. And, you know, they're not going to get killed. They're going to kill like 4 or 5 people. They're going to walk away. They always do, you know. And so for us, we just got to be, you know, we got to be smarter than those guys are because we know we're going to catch them at some point in time. If it's not today, I really don't have a problem with saying stupid. You know, we can identify them some other kind of a way, whatever it is. My buddy Dave was killed back in 2005. The way they found those freaking clowns was from a receipt from Denny's, because they were in the Denny's the night before. They found a receipt in the car that these idiots had still in there. They went back and looked at the video, identified them that way the next day. You know, so we know we're going to catch retards. It's just a matter of time. So, but anywho, so
but again, you know, it kind of goes back to the ready aspect of it. You know, it's the, you know, complacency a lot of times, just, you know, doing something repeatedly over and over and over again where, oh, hey, this is just by the book type of stop or things like that, to where that's where individuals need to know that, you know, the moments like this, to where when that flee happens, or, you know, you have that jittery, I mean, being able to like recognize, you know, even just mannerisms of an individual, of the subject, whatever the case may be, to where it's
it's not just that standard stop anymore. It's not just that standard, oh, hey, just going about, okay, great. Where they just comply instantly. There's always I'm not going to say always, but there's going to be that moment to where, that individual's not that guy that's going to comply today, so.
Well, and you hit it on the head with the complacency thing. And even I'll take it a step further because use a comparison for 9/11, what they knew at the time. And, this is how we've always done it. That's one of my things that I can't stand when I hear people say that. Well, like with the putting the officers in the back of patrol cars after a critical incident. Well, that's how we've always done it. Well, no, that's not okay. We gotta be forward thinking and change some shit around. The shit that I was talking to one of my students today, and he wants to go and get his firearm permit updated through the state of California, but he's going through the NRA, and I'm like, okay, I don't have any beef with the NRA guys, but most of those guys that are down there are still working on late 80s and early 90s thought processes. Those days are over, man. We don't do that shit anymore, And a lot of stuff that I learned back when I first started, well, we're not doing that shit anymore either. Like the 21-foot rule, we don't teach that anymore. We've gone another direction with the whole entire thing. So we've always got to be one step ahead of the bad guys, and for our own well-being, for our own safety, for our own survival, and if you aren't willing to change that shit, teaching, something so simple like teaching from the Weaver to the isosceles on the range, and I recognize this dude. It's the simplest thing that I can come up with, but I know for a fact that if I got a guy that's been shooting Weaver for 20 years, I show him the better advantages of shooting at isosceles or modified or whatever it is. I know for a fact that when he gets into a shooting, he's going to go back to what he's been doing for 20 years. So he may or may not be thinking, yes, I want to try to do this, but if he doesn't practice these things all the time and get out of that mindset of we've always done it, get back to what he's always been doing. You know what I mean? So, and it's hard to break that cycle. It really is. So,
well, on top of that too, then you have that praise into the feed and things like that, to where it's like, because again, like with the media, and then you have individuals that say, oh, well, they instill fear inside the individuals. Oh, you're pulling me over because of this. So individual, law enforcement officers that generally would walk up, hand by sidearm, walking to the vehicle, approaching the vehicle, being cognizant of, and a lot of them, hands on the wheel so you can see hands, but there's so many today that aren't even following that protocol because, media is putting all this restraint, let's just say, on law enforcement. So if, you have, let's just say, them making they're so complacent in that and just walking to these vehicles to where, everyone is so exposed today to where they don't even realize the realities that, could be,
Well,
and it's a shame. The same thing with the trainings and stuff like that. Like you just said, it's it's not really, yeah.
well, here's a big problem that I've got is that, a lot of these agencies, they let the media run them, well, you guys are doing this, you guys are doing that. And then they start thinking, well, yeah, we need to change our policy to fit the mold of the media. No, you don't. I think we talked about this last time about Tyler, how he's in a situation that he's in because of the policy that they created for that. It's like, dude, no, I had this fight with one of my former bosses on, a couple of weeks. We got on the same squad at the same time. He was the boss. I said, man, you're making me hesitate on the street. You're going to cost me my life. I said, I can't work this way. I said, let me go out there and do what I do my job. And I'll promise you, I'll get you the right numbers safely, and not cause any problems. But if you're going to continue to do what you're doing, we're going to have to part ways because I can't do it, and I won't do it. No way. And he was like, okay, all right. If you just make sure you're within policy, you're not accessible. I never was. Policy, okay, sometimes I was outside the lines, but unfortunately, that's just how you get shit done sometimes. Not advocating for that, but it does happen. So, but that's his job to kind of keep me in the lines of within policy. And I had to make him understand that, dude, sometimes my first critical incident that I had when he was my boss was just a tasing. It wasn't really that big of a deal. But I had been primed by my FTO, my former sergeant, former last two sergeants that, we go out there and something happens and it's, like high-fiving and shit. And that's kind of how I was when I freaking zapped this guy. It was awesome. The guy was running right at me. I hit him with the taser. He went down. And he had his hands under his body. And I'm screaming at the guy, stay on the ground, stay on the ground. And he gets back up. And this is how I'm explaining the story to my boss. I go, yeah, so I fucking hit him again, And he's like, whoa, you tased him again? Well, yeah. Well, yeah, see, you just can't do that. Okay, slow down here. Here's the situation. The guy's got a felony warrant for his arrest. He's running right at me. He's running from the other officers. He didn't obey my commands. He went to the ground. I gave him a chance to stop doing what he was doing. He had his hands under his body. I couldn't see what he was doing. I was still completely by myself. I can't go hands-on with this guy. Yeah, he got zapped again. I had to explain it that way in like 20 different scenario types before he finally got it. He's like, okay. But here's what you failed to understand, boss. I made that decision in about 4 seconds. You're sitting over here gauging me, the same day, like hours and hours later, trying to figure out why I did what I did in that 4-second time period where, next time I do this, I'm going to be thinking, well, is he going to jam me up? Am I going to get in trouble for this? And then what's going to happen? I'm going to be fucking dead. So no, it's not going to work that way. So
see, and that's the part that so many people fail to realize is like just this. People don't realize how seconds matter. They don't realize it. It's like fucking beyond their mind. And it's the, just as, law enforcement is trained to, make sure that your belt's set up the same way that it is and things like that to be able to, know where it's at. Criminals are the same way. I mean, it's there. I mean, it's just, so if you see someone huckering away or like, doing this, doing that, for you to put your life in jeopardy, and that's where it's comical when you have these sideliners that are just like, oh, well, you should do this, Officer Hoyer. You should have done this. It's like, but literally in a second, it could just go from to where, things are just bad for somebody. Just bad. I mean, completely seconds, like not even a second. In a half a second, my training through my lifetime, what I've been through, in under a second, I could either have a knife to someone's throat or have a gun to their temple. Yeah. Period. You know what I mean? And I don't say that in I could do that. That's how critical it is to where, superior second guessing, your methods opposed to their methods, opposed to the, policy procedure. It's irrelevant when it comes to the then and now. Your life, civilian lives, and everything else that lays there is fucking irrelevant.
I will tell you this, as crazy as it might sound, I like having those critical conversations because the first thing I start thinking about is, okay, maybe they're making a point. Maybe there's something that I could be doing that's better than what I did before. So I start going to that next level and I start playing that what if game all over again. Okay, so let me just say, you think I should do this? Let me put that into terminology that I can understand. Let me just see if that would actually work, and reason it out as to why it either will or it won't work. Like as just when we hear the most, shoot the knife out of his hand. Okay, and we all know. I mean, guys that have any level of experience whatsoever know that's never going to work. However, when I start thinking about these things, I start thinking, okay. The very first thing I think about is for the firearms instructors, the guys who've been through this shit, dot torture. Everybody fucking hates doing dot torture, right? And all I think about is, okay, I'm never going to make an attempt to shoot a knife out of a guy's hand. But if I can aim small, shoot small, maybe that's going to improve my shooting just slightly, and that's when I start thinking, okay, well, when I make my point in real life on the range or what have you, and I say, okay, look, this is what I can do. Now you factor in all these other things, whatever it happens to be, and then I run them through that scenario themselves, and then they realize that it's literally impossible to do, not even factoring in all the other shit that we're talking about. Somebody made a really good point the other day that shit doesn't happen to us. It does to me because that's how I was in the middle of my shift or in the beginning. It's usually at the end of your shift, you're having a bad day. You haven't eaten, in 8 hours or whatever it is. You just got the phone with your wife screaming and yelling at you. She's yelling at you because the kids are being a little pain in the ass. These are all things that are weighing on your mind. Then your flashlight goes out and then your freaking shoelaces come inside, and now this guy's run for 4 blocks over 4 or 5 different, and unfortunately go in the backyard with this guy and go hands on with him by yourself, and all these other things are weighing in, and now you've got that half a second to make that critical incident. Okay, now you factor all that shit in. Go ahead, let's see what kind of decision you're gonna make. Oh yeah, well, let me think about this for a second. Yeah, it doesn't fucking work that way, So nothing happens in a perfect world the way that we want it to, like on a fucking static range when paper's not shooting back at you. Yeah, I'm lights out shooting that paper all day long. I mean, who isn't? I mean, shit. When that shit starts moving around and you can't see it because he's behind a freaking tree and your flashlight not being able to get around that corner, and then you've got a kid standing behind him or a school bus, or you got somebody screaming here, you got the radio going off, all these other things. It's like, okay. Yeah, it changes your thought process maybe just a little bit.
Well, that's like with active shooters, I mean, especially in an active shooter incident, it's like you're not going to process things in a normal time frame when, I mean, even going hands on with the subject. What does that mean, active shooter? I mean, you could just be a physical encounter.
Right.
The processing time frame is completely altered in real life, in real time. It's not going to happen. I mean,
I agree. And you can,
and anybody that says any different, I'll go hands on with them and make them think twice about, well, what would you really do now? But
and I say it now a lot, sitting on my side of the fence, being fat, dumb, and happy, retired, and telling you guys, oh, you need to do it this way. Okay, well, I'm not there anymore. I'm not fighting crime in today's world like years back. But bad guys are still pretty much the same. They still want to get away from us. They still want to try to hurt us, whatever else. So, you got to take these things into consideration and how you are going to condition yourself to make it through that shit, whatever it happens to be. And I can't tell you what it's going to be because your fight's going to be different than my fight. Even if we're in the same fight, we're not going to fight the same way. You're not going to remember shit the way that I remembered it. Your time frame may speed up. Yours may slow down. Who the hell knows? But neither here nor there at this point. But not for me, anyways, because thankfully I'm out of the game anymore.
Ish. You still got to run those live scenarios for individuals, though.
Yeah, I know. So carry on here.
Yes, sir.
All right, rock and roll. I got some water.
Also, real quick, so the ride-along guy,
yeah,
the buddy of yours, was he like a friend of yours on like outside of what you were doing and things like that? That he was just like, oh, hey, was it by happenstance that he was riding along with you, or was that something that was kind of like oh, hey, I'm doing this, you can kind of ride along with me, or how did that actually happen?
Well, have I read the Reload story yet? I blew up my gun in the academy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went through that. The guy that sold me was still to this day a really good friend of mine. In fact, hopefully we're going to see him this weekend.
Phoenix?
Yeah, he's owned a gun store. He was like 60 or something, and now he's like 80 something, whatever else. Really, really super good dude. Well, my buddy Jack, the one that owned the gun store, was also friends with Bobby, and that's how we got introduced. Because I'd see Bobby at the gun store, and when I met Jack, the owner of the gun store, I was still in the academy, and then when I graduated, the whole thing, they were all there for that, and it was awesome. So Bobby and I just became friends over time. And when I was finally solo and everything else, he's like, "Hey man, you think I can come do a ride with you?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, dude, come on board." And fortunate thing for him is he had double kidney failure, so he had double transplants, and he could never get on because of that. And it was really sad. I felt bad for him. But yeah, he was as big or bigger shit magnet than I was, even as a civilian. I'm like, holy shit, dude. So the next story is actually about him as well. So he did 4 rides with me. The first one was the story you just heard. The fourth one was going to be the last time he rode with me. Unbelievable shit. I'm like, dude, the middle 2, they were born, nothing ever happened, luckily. So that's how that whole thing came to play. So,
awesome.
All right. Okay, so here we go. Second half of chapter 11, civilian ride along number 4. So the second half of the story is from my buddy, the man who would not achieve his dream of becoming a police officer, but who still went on to greatness and who, by the way, is a bigger shit magnet than me. Disclaimer. I'm to blame here because I cannot possibly be at fault alone. And I can't possibly all my fault alone. Love you, man. On the fourth and last ride along with my good buddy, we hopped in the patrol car in the early morning hours. Assuming the day would be nice and quiet like the last few times he tagged along were boring as hell. I figured we were safe. Yeah, right. I signed down to the computer, and the second or third shift officer hadn't deleted the messages from the night before. Actually, there was only one message, and it read, "Homicide suspect driving unknown car with partial plate." I got on the phone straight away. My buddy was growing frustrated because we were still in the parking lot of the precinct, and he was ready to crack some skulls. Operative words for later. There was zero info coming in. No one had a clue about this message, and I was unable to reach the officer himself from the night before. Shoot. Okay, well, let's see if we get lucky. Within 30 minutes of reaching my area, we were all we had was a plate, no vehicle description, no suspect description, no nada. Yeah, we'll find this thing in a city of 3 million, right? I knew I should have bought a lottery ticket that morning because larger than life, we found the car parked at a local Fleabag motel, one of about 359 in that particular area. I made several phone calls. What an adrenaline rush. Help, help, I exclaimed. I think I found something. It was kind of funny. From the time we found the car, information started pouring in or started spilling in like mad. And within 45 minutes, we had it all. Alrighty then. The heavy hitters rolled on scene, and we, being marked, were ordered to hide. I was told, your job is to attempt a traffic stop. When he goes mobile, got it? Oh, yeah, we got it. It was time to hurry up and wait. Normal doper time. Can drive you to drink. I'm talking dog years. This deal was set for 1,400 hours. They made a call, got the guy. They knew he was going to be leaving the hotel at a certain time. That usually meant upwards of 1,900 hours, like 5 hours later. For some reason, this doper was ready and cooperative. Thank you, sir. I mean, you worthless sack of shit. 2 minutes later, after we got set up, the car was on the move. The tire deflation device actually worked, and the suspect was rolling, albeit slowly. Okay, guys, he's coming out, and he's all yours. Sweet. Before we could light him up, he was slowing down before the parking lot. He got out of the car, scratching his head, and checked the newly flattened tire. That's when he saw us all pull up and made a sudden move for the trunk, but we were on him. The suspect bolted. He took off running. The chase was on. There were cops instantly all over the place. As I tackled him in front of the local fast food joint, the fight was on. I could not help but smile at the customer sitting at the window, staring in awe. I was thinking to myself, hi, guys, don't worry about us. Go ahead and finish your breakfast. I thought I had a pretty good handle on his arm when a guy from an unnamed federal agency, whose face I did not recognize, started screaming at my bad guy. Obviously, he saw something I did not. For us local guys, to put it nicely, it was common knowledge that the feds tend to get away with more. Technically, the bad guy had a good chance of getting away when I let go of his arm. The federal agent saw him reaching for the .25 auto tucked in his waistband. Before he could shoot and disarm him, seeing as I was standing too close for comfort, he took the barrel of a semi-automatic pistol and shoved it in the bad guy's mouth. Holy mother of God, can you do that? That is so cool. I mentioned cracking skulls earlier. Well, teeth were falling, blood was spurting, and screams were coming from a very large man like I had never heard before. Wow. I cannot even imagine what this Fed's front sight did to the roof of this guy's mouth. Owie. All things considered, our bad guy deserved it. The loser literally smothered a child to death, his own flesh and blood to avoid capture on a warrant. Yeah, how many teeth did you lose, fucker? I could never have gotten away with that. It is not advised, in fact. In today's world, it is highly unadvised. Choose your role models carefully. Oh, and by the way, in the trunk of his car was a fully loaded sawed-off shotgun that Knucklehead was planning to use against us. I was convinced of this when we found the car key still in the keyhole of the trunk. My ride-along buddy got his money's worth that day, but again, no winning lottery ticket. So, yeah, that was some scary shit, man. I had never seen anything like that before. I was like, oh my God, wow. So,
yeah, but I mean, it kind of goes into the eye rolls and the, oh yeah, right, that's not going to happen aspects that, really do, come to light. It is what if he would have made it to the trunk? So many scenarios playing out again, whereas like well, what am I supposed to do? Just let him go to the trunk, fall back and, find out how this pans out. It's endless, and it's
this particular case, We were getting information coming in a little bit here and there. We knew the guns wanted for how long. I didn't know the specific details of it, but he had a warrant out, and I don't know if the front set guy was the same agency or not, but he was wanted by the U.S. Marshals, and they were looking for him from before, and they did a door knock on his house or whatever else, and he was there. His baby was crying, and he literally had the kid in his arms to shut him up while they were knocking on the door, smothering the kid to death. So he had whatever warrants he had for that, for the thing they were looking for him originally, and he wanted for basically I'm not sure what the charge actually was. I don't think it was first degree, but it's probably second degree murder for his own kid. So clearly this guy had reason to run. And fortunately for us, we swarmed him. We had, I don't know how many guys were out there. And being the young, I still only had I think maybe 3 years on at the time, still young and spry. I mean, I had fucking springs for feet, man. I can just bolt pretty quickly. And so when the guy started to run, I was all over it. I mean, I just freaking grabbed him, took him right to the ground. And like I said, the fight was on. And before I even knew what was going on, I was watching this guy fucking just rolling around on the ground screaming. I'm like, oh shit.
At what point did the feds jump in? I mean, were they there on scene initially, or?
Yeah, they're the ones that they put the tire deflation device on his car, and clearly because they knew what they wanted him for. They were, I don't know how many guys. They probably had 10 cars out there with us. We were the only marked car at the time because this is early in the morning on a Saturday again, as it turns out. And as soon as, because I mean, they made a call. I mean, they did like a confrontation call with the guy. Had somebody else kind of call, make it look like, yeah, man, we're gonna meet up for some dope here, whatever time. That's where the 2 o'clock thing came into play. And then the guy must have got spooked or whatever and tried to skedaddle. He must have gotten tipped off someplace or whatever else. So he decided to bolt. And so this thing started at 6 o'clock. By 9, we were on it. And then by that time, the feds had shown up. And like I said, they were forming all over the place, man. It was great. It was a beautiful thing. So it's like, wow, holy shit. I'm looking around going, wow, I've never seen this many cops in one place, my whole life. At this time, 3 years on or whatever. So, yeah. So, still on mute.
One of them things where I'm sitting there talking. But how long was that like an incident to where it was especially like not seeing the 25, and how did that play into the awareness aspect? Like, I can't believe I missed something like that, or hey, it's a good thing they were there, or again, going back into so many different scenarios of like what could have happened if that other individual wasn't there, the other agent wasn't there, and things like that. So
yeah,
how did that affect everything?
That's one of the things I try to teach now, where I was so, I'm not gonna say hot-headed, but I was so freaking hair on fire during most of my career. The idea of going hands-on by myself, never realized how really stupid that is. And see the guy running, I mean, it's like one of those things I joke about being a birth defect. I run, I chase. I mean, that's just how it is, So it was just fortunate that I was faster than he was. And even though I was able to get him to the ground without too much effort, once we got on the ground, we started to go bad. And looking back on that, right after the fact, I was thinking to myself, man, it's a damn good thing I had other guys there with me, because that would have been close quarters contact. I mean, looking on where I was, body to body kind of a thing, he probably wouldn't have had much of a chance to get to, because I was basically on his right hand side, and he was reaching for the gun with it naturally, so he wouldn't be able to kind of reach back, if you will, and be able to kind of point it in this direction. So I was pretty well safe that way. But the Fed on the other side was on his left hand side, so he was pretty much downrange when this guy started pulling the gun out of his waistband. And I didn't even realize I had the gun hand, and he's screaming, hey, man, and because the guy starts to roll over on his side, and I'm pretty much, he's rolling over my arm as I'm hanging onto it, to do what he was doing. And when the Fed saw that, he wasn't wasting any time, man. He just freaking right into the mouth. I'm like, oh my God. Holy shit. Took the fight right out of him. I mean, it did, man. He was done. That freaking gun just fell literally like right out of his hand. The Fed just basically stuck his foot on it. And he's standing over the guy screaming all kinds of bad things about the guy's mother or some shit, but whatever it was. But I was like, man, that's pretty freaking badass. But clearly, as a city, probably not going to get away with that. I wouldn't recommend doing that anyways. It was cool, makes for a great story. That's not something that the local guys are probably going to be able to answer for very well. The Feds, I mean, I joke about it, but they do get away with more shit than we do for the most part. So, and then again, you hear that story as to why we did what we did. I mean, who's really going to dispute that? You fucking killed your own child. You know, that's you're lucky that you got. You know, in all reality.
And you're armed, and you have complete intent on, you know, killing anybody else that stands in your way of freedom.
Pretty much, yeah. And clearly, the intent was there. I mean, no questions asked. You know, so, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, luckily, we caught him. I'm sure I assume he's probably still in prison to this day. So this was probably, I'm guessing, probably 2001, something like that. So this guy being out of jail, probably not likely.
Well, you know, that's one of the things too that's hard for a lot of, you know, law enforcement officers to actually, I'm not going to say decipher, but, you know, to place judgment on what intent is. You know, I mean, even if somebody's complying initially, you still don't know their intent of why they're complying, you know, of why they're saying so like a day. You know, there's so much intent that, you know, goes into every situation, every, you know, incident that, you know, needs to be played out in every officer's head, you know, to like, you know, run every scenario. I'm not going to say you really can't play out every scenario, but you need to play out, like, you know, the most common scenarios that, you know, could happen.
Yeah. And it's not hard to do. It's really not that hard to do. Even with my class that I teach, I don't have a simulator or a Milo machine or anything like that, but I can still get these guys sticking on their feet and what kind of potential scenarios they could be facing. And again, if you think about all these potential things that you could do, and then when it actually happens, you've already thought about all that other shit. You just move to the next thing, whatever it happens to be. And that's clearly way better if you do have that machine, if you can actually put rounds down range kind of a thing or what have you. That makes a huge difference. But at least if they got their mind pointing in the right direction, if you will, then that'll definitely at least hopefully get them going in the right way. You know what I mean? So, but easier said than done. But
exactly. You know, that's where it's always easier to, you know, point fingers and say you should have done this different as it is to actually do it in a situation like that. So,
well, you know, and as an instructor, it's really tough to sometimes say, look, I mean, you say it every time we start talking about being humble. It's like, look, man, I'm not telling you this shit because I'm just over here talking to myself and wanting to hear myself talk, which I kind of do sometimes, but okay. But, you know, I'm basing this off of an experienced situation that I've been through, that I've lived through. And these are the things that I did that made me survive this critical incident, whatever it happened to be. And again, I say this every single time I talk to my kids in the classroom. I'm like, look, this is a starting point. Start from here, you know, finish off, go a different direction. Think of something else. Think of all the other things that you could do. Think of all the things that I told you that I did, and then just take it to the next level. You know, customize it to your own being or your own way or whatever, you know. So sometimes I see other instructors or teachers, stuff like that, and they say, look, you need to do it this way. Okay, but that doesn't fit my mold. It doesn't work that way for me. You know, I can't shoot a certain way. I just can't, you know. I mean, like my buddy's freaking lights out shooter, but he can't his gun over to the side. He doesn't do the freaking gangster thing. And I've seen instructor after instructor, you got to quit doing that. Why? I'm fucking shooting 250s all day long. Why would I change that to fit your mold? This is Mike's way of doing this. This is how I do it. Leave him the fuck alone. He's doing it good. Leave him alone. You know, I don't care. You know, I don't care how it looks as long as it works. Fine, so be it. You know. So, but so many guys are closed-minded about that kind of stuff. You know. So, but.
Yeah, it's you know, one person's way is not the other way. You know, you got to have the comfort and things like that. That's just like, you know, body structure and things like that, coordination, everything's different. So, you know, everybody's mold is going to be completely different than the next. You know.
Yeah. Well, you know, clearly, especially when you're on range. You know, you get guys. I mean, some of these guys are lights out shooters on their own. And guys that, you know, they're super rock stars and they're proven guys, terrible instructors because there's only one way to do it. You're on my range, you got to do it this way. Okay, well, short of compromising your safety, well, what's the difference? You know, as long as you're safe, I don't really care how you're doing it. If it's not working and I tell you to do it a certain way and it's not working that way, we're going to try something else. You know, if you insist on doing it your way and it's not working, we're going to try something else, you know, what have you. So, and I don't expect to show up to the range to be the best shooter out there. You know, I mean, I expect that there's going to be a whole bunch of guys that know a whole lot more shit than I do. And I invite those guys, please, if you know more than I do, let me know because I don't want to act like I'm all hot shit because I'm not. Believe me. So I'm just lucky to. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So.
But it's we can always grow and learn, but there's still the fundamental principles that, you know, can be followed, you know, especially based on experience and everything else too, like we expressed earlier, you know, so.
Yeah, very true. Very true. You know, and there's so many different ways to skin a cat too, of course, you know, I mean, we've said this 20 times already. There's, you know, the way and a way, you know, it's like, all right, whatever, you know, figure it out, modify it if you need to. And I was teaching some defensive tactics the other day and showing us one thing that we're doing baton stuff, which I'm not even going to talk about that, but the reason why I don't like it and how it's such a close quarters weapon and I know how it's going to probably end up costing you your life if you depend on it the wrong way and this kind of shit. And I was showing them an example of when you start moving in on somebody, what that looks like. And the guy's like, can I do this? And he showed me this leg sweep. I'm like, dude, hell yeah, please. In fact, I'm going to use that because I thought it was great. I never thought about it that way. I'm like, yes, absolutely. That's wonderful. Yeah, let's do that. Let's all do that. You know, and I got all excited about it and shit. So, because I don't teach that weapon system very much, and I'm not a subject matter expert by any stretch of imagination. I teach the extreme base on it. When we get to the tactics class, it's more advanced. But for what I'm teaching you guys, I'm like, look, man, you know, in my opinion, just be someplace else. You use that thing to try to save your life, forget it. It's just not going to happen. You know,
Right.
That's with me. So yeah. Well, tell you what, man. I think we're gonna, if it's okay with you, start wrapping it up.
All right, we're gonna do Saturday.
Probably not, only because Matt and I are leaving for Arizona.
Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm gonna be speaking to Peoria guys. I got a thing with Brandon Griffith. He was asking about you the other day, so I'm gonna be doing my thing with him Saturday morning, and then I got my thing with Peoria PD Saturday afternoon, and then I'm not sure what happens after that. So
Yeah, just
visiting.
let me know we're gonna squeeze in and let Brandon know that I'll reach out to him tomorrow, as a matter of fact, and we'll kind of get things scheduled as well too. So,
cool.
But it's always a pleasure.
Dude, I love it, man. So
Yes, sir.
if you want to try to tentatively set up for next Wednesday, good with that?
Yes, sir. I'll make sure it happens.
All right. I'm gonna see if I can get Natalie on board. If not, I want to try to grab Chris Gregorio again, man, because I just love when he's on here, or John Hall too. If we can get all three of us together, all four of us together,
I'll make it happen. You know, and especially having like this advance notice and things like that. Let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and I'll even shoot Chris Gregorio an email, let him know, and I'll send him over the broadcast link and things like that. That way, if he can join, he can join. If not, then, you know, we'll try to catch him on the next one or something.
Yeah, you tell him now, man. He's got no excuses, man. Take the day off if you need to, damn it. So
You have a week.
yeah, come on. What's the problem? Shit. So anyway.
Sounds like a plan. But
Cool. Brother.
always a pleasure. Love you too, brother, man. Stay safe, stay blessed in all things, and tell Natalie that her book read's coming up next as well too. So
I'm down, man. I'm down. She's not going to be able to get out of it. So whether she likes it or not. So
well, if she can, you know, especially if she's trying to get the bestseller list.
cool.
All right, man. Stay safe, stay blessed, brother.
Later.